When it comes to battling monstrous kaiju, not all Jaeger weapons are created equal. Some rely on brute force and advanced plasma technology, while others bring quirky or old-school firepower to the fight. Let's start by looking at the Mark I Japanese Jaeger, whose weaponry takes a surprising approach, turning artillery-style firepower into a walking fortress that pounds enemies from afar. Coyote Tango. Imagine a giant robot armed like a World War II battleship stalking the battlefield with twin long-range mortar cannons on its shoulders. That's exactly what Coyote Tango is, a Mark I Jaeger from Japan built as a walking artillery platform instead of a sleek melee fighter. Its main firepower comes from these ballistic mortars, lobbing high-yield explosive shells far beyond most kaiju's reach. The mortars let Coyote Tango strike from a distance, bombarding incoming kaiju before they get close to cities or civilians. It's old-school siege tactics, but supersized at 250 feet tall. Backing up the mortars is a forearm-mounted VPI missile system for more direct attacks once the target closes in. The goal? Disable or disorient enemies while keeping distance. Here's the kicker though, these mortars are seriously powerful but painfully imprecise. Targeting giant, fast kaiju with gravity arc shells is like trying to hit a fly with a cannonball. Reload times are agonizingly slow, and once a kaiju gets close, Coyote Tango turns into a sitting duck. It's got almost zero melee weapons, leaving it vulnerable in close combat. Then there's the collateral damage. Those mortar blasts create massive shockwaves that can wreck entire city blocks. Fighting in urban zones, Coyote Tango might cause as much destruction as the monsters it's fighting. Its biggest threat to humanity might just be its own firepower. Coyote Tango is classic early Jaeger tech, innovative but limited, prioritizing brute explosive force over finesse or agility. As the kaiju war went on, this ballistic approach couldn't keep up with smarter, faster enemies or more versatile Jaegers. That raw, destructive power looks good on paper, but got eclipsed by later models with plasma, missiles, and close-quarters combat skills. The next Jaeger took a radically different path, focusing less on heavy blasts and more on controlling fights up close. Guardian Bravo reveals how Jaeger weapons had to evolve just to survive. Guardian Bravo doesn't pack the biggest punch, but its LX-16 whip might be the sneakiest weapon in the Jaeger lineup. Built for precision over raw power, this Mark VI Jaeger specializes in ranged control by delivering cutting damage and zapping kaiju nervous systems into submission. Think a high-voltage cattle prod scaled up to skyscraper-sized monsters. Before you dismiss it as a glorified bug zapper, hear me out. The LX-16 whip is made of an unbreakable material and fires electric shocks that both slice and disrupt nerves. This combo can stun multiple limbs by paralyzing muscular and nervous functions, giving Guardian Bravo a tactical edge rarely seen in other Jaegers. Unlike others that bring missile barrages or plasma cannons, Guardian Bravo relies on that whip plus rocket-like burst foils on its back. These thrusters let it zip around quickly, hit targets, and fade away before enemies can retaliate. It's built for hit-and-run strikes, supporting more lethal Jaegers by weakening kaiju or opening them up. Heavy kill power? Not really. Crowd control? Absolutely. Its arsenal is minimalist, with no heavy long-range weapons like Gypsy Danger's plasma casters or Striker Eureka's missiles. The whip incapacitates rather than kills outright, meaning Guardian Bravo usually softens targets for others. Plus, its whip needs momentum and precision to cut through thick armor, making sustained damage tough. Details on any secondaries are scarce, so its deadliest weapon really is just one whip. Here's where it gets interesting. Guardian Bravo fills a unique tactical niche as the support striker. It's less about explosions and more an electromechanical tool turning kaiju into sitting ducks without obliterating them. That electrified whip won't solo the big threats, but brings a finesse missing from brawling Jaegers. But finesse only takes you so far. Whips can get tangled and distraction won't hold if the enemy adapts. That's perfect setup for Romeo Blue, a Jaeger combining brute force and experimentation to make up for what Guardian Bravo leaves behind. Romeo Blue is an odd beast in the Jaeger lineup, a jack of all trades from the earliest Mark I era, with a cocktail of weapons that screams, "We're figuring this out as we go." Its primary punch, a hydraulic HK/4664 piston fist that packs enough raw mechanical power to smash through kaiju armor, but only at close range. This is a massive risk when your foe can swat you aside like a fly or worse. But Romeo Blue doesn't just rely on close combat, it also wields GAU-24 Gatling guns for range suppression, firing bursts of kinetic rounds to pick off weak points or keep enemies at bay. Then there's the real wild card, an experimental IBB-45/RK001 plasma cannon. This early plasma tech is basically a prototype, trying to merge the old school brawler style with the emerging energy weapons trend. But here's the catch. It's notoriously unreliable and doesn't deliver the punch you'd expect from later plasma systems like Gypsy Danger's. It sputters more than it roars, making it a frustrating tool to depend on during critical fights. Romeo Blue's multi-weapon design bridges a fascinating transitional moment in Jaeger history. Part melee powerhouse, part kinetic gunner, and part plasma pioneer. Yet all these pieces don't quite come together into a lethal whole. The dependence on close-range hydraulic fists means it's often throwing itself into the thick of danger, while the experimental plasma tech is still too green to routinely end fights decisively. Its Gatling guns add some ranged versatility, but they're more for attrition than knockout blows. This kit leaves Romeo Blue stuck solidly in the mid-tier of weapon lethality, dangerous enough to hold its own against early kaiju and impress crowds, but limited in raw power compared to beefier, more specialized Jaegers that came after. Its iconic status in America isn't from its outright dominance on the battlefield, but from representing that awkward moment when the human weapons race started slipping the mechanical leash to chase plasma promises. Romeo Blue is the mechanical to energy evolutionary stepping stone, but its foibles make you appreciate Jaeger's built to do one thing really well. The real question, can brute force and experimental firepower top raw brawling muscle? That question only grows sharper when you consider the next Jaeger's sheer indestructibility and close quarter brutality, Cherno Alpha. Cherno Alpha isn't just a Mark I Russian Jaeger, it's a tank with flamethrowers strapped to its fists. Its signature weapons, the incinerator turbines, blast superheated flames that literally roast vital kaiju parts once it's locked them down mechanically. Then come the Tesla fists, which aren't just for show. These deliver crushing force powerful enough to pulverize bones and tear open armor, turning Cherno into an industrial-grade meat grinder. Before you dismiss it as an outdated brute, hear me out. Cherno Alpha's sheer physical resilience means it can wade into the thick of battle and survive hits that would cripple faster, flashier models. The heavy armor isn't just for defense. It allows Cherno to get so close it can keep a kaiju's head or limbs firmly in its grip. Then, the incinerator turbines ignite, burning through tissue and internal organs with flame temperatures intense enough to incinerate flesh and weaken kaiju from within. This combo of mechanical restraint plus thermal destruction is brutal and unrelenting. But here's the kicker. Cherno Alpha's whole arsenal is designed for one thing, close quarter slaughter. Its weapon systems refuse to engage at range. The turbines and fists require Cherno to close distance and grapple, which normally spells certain death against smarter or faster kaiju. The Tesla fists add extra punch, literally crushing critical anatomy while the turbines turn the victim into a charred wreck. However, this combo only really works if Cherno can hold on. Against agile or evolved kaiju that keep their distance, or unleash corrosive biological attacks, Cherno's slow approach becomes a liability. Environmental factors like water or heavy debris can also smother its fiery weapons, making it less effective. This is industrial brutality meeting tactical persistence, a walking furnace and battering ram. The flame weaponry defines its lethality. The ability to literally melt parts of a kaiju at point-blank range is unique, even if situational. Cherno Alpha isn't about finesse or versatility. It's about overpowering enemies with raw force and getting nasty up close. Its heavy brawler design expects to chew through threats slowly but surely, not dance around them. Yet that brutal straightforwardness puts it at a disadvantage in today's fight, where smarter, faster, and longer range Jaegers reign supreme. Cherno's short-range reliance means it's vulnerable the moment a kaiju evolves any tactic to maintain spacing or exploit terrain. That slow, crushing flame tactic is terrifying if it lands, but it can't carry the whole fight alone. Crimson Typhoon flips this close-range brutality on its head with a whirlwind of fast, precision strikes, dancing around opponents with 3 arms instead of 1. Crimson Typhoon. 3 arms might sound like a cool design choice until you realize Crimson Typhoon turns into a weaponized blender on steroids, rotating blades spinning so fast they could shred a kaiju limb before you blink. This Mark IV Chinese Jaeger doesn't just swing swords, it unleashes a rapid-fire, multi-angle assault that leaves enemies hacked to bits from every direction. Here's the kicker. Crimson Typhoon's tri-arm system isn't just for show. Controlled by a trio of synchronized pilots, those 3 arms wield rotating blade systems made for high-speed cutting and relentless dismemberment. Unlike traditional two-handed chainswords, Crimson Typhoon attacks from multiple angles, targeting limbs, tails, anything that moves to overwhelm with sheer volume of slashes. This multi-limb defense turns battle into a martial arts frenzy, ripping off kaiju appendages in seconds. The blades don't just slice, they pivot, spin, and saw with devastating speed, turning its limbs into spinning buzzsaws. Its melee finesse cranked to 11, using speed and chaos to dodge slow grapples or slugfest. But here's where it gets tricky. Coordinating 3 arms means triple the neural load for the pilots, making perfect synchronization critical. Crimson Typhoon's tri-pilot system is an impressive display of teamwork and a potential weak spot if the connection falters. Any misstep risks blade clashes or missed hits at worst. Then comes mechanical fragility. Those spinning blades get covered in kaiju blood, debris, and corrosive slime, which can jam or damage them mid-fight. Long, brutal battles could easily stall those high-speed cutters if repairs don't keep up. Unlike plasma cannons, these weapons demand flawless mechanical endurance. Plus, Crimson Typhoon lacks significant ranged options. When kaiju keep their distance, its melee focus leaves it exposed. Without plasma fire or heavy missiles, it must close in, a tall order against monsters that can pummel or swipe from yards away. Still, its 3 arms slicing in unison create an overwhelming close-range assault that often shreds defenses before the enemy reacts. Crimson Typhoon makes melee a dizzying dance of multi-limb devastation, proving sometimes extra hands aren't just a challenge. They're a brutal advantage. But raw power and ranged versatility play a different game. Gypsy Danger combined close-range brutality with plasma cannons to keep pressure at all distances, giving it an edge. Crimson Typhoon's relentless blades can't fully match. Gypsy Danger's weapons are the perfect balance of brutal and precise, a Mark III American flagship that manages to do everything without trying too hard. Its dual I-19 plasma casters don't just shoot plasma, they fire supercharged particle beams that punch through kaiju armor and instantly cauterize the wounds. That means the damage goes deep and stops any bleed-out healing tricks. It's basically a plasma scalpel from hell, ideal for weakening monsters at medium range. But Gypsy Danger isn't just a walking plasma gun, it has retractable chain swords in its forearms for savage close combat. These swords aren't mere buzzsaws, they're razor-sharp blades designed to shred bone and muscle, turning limbs into useless stumps in seconds. Add in elbow rockets that pack a knockout punch, all powered by a nuclear vortex turbine core that keeps everything firing non-stop, even under heavy stress. This mix makes Gypsy Danger the textbook example of versatility. It can slow a kaiju from afar with plasma, then close the gap to rip it apart with chain swords. The synergy between ranged and melee is downright elegant. No other Jaeger of its era mastered this kind of balance. The plasma isn't just flashy, it was a leap forward that leveraged kaiju biology over brute force. Still, Gypsy Danger's weapons have limits. The plasma casters work best at close to mid-range. Firing at long distances causes the beams to spread and weaken, so it can't just sit back and bombard enemies like artillery. Its energy core, though powerful, isn't endless, so sustained attacks can overload the system and force breaks. And those deadly chain swords only work up close, meaning Gypsy risks claws, tails, and acidic breath from way bigger monsters. Despite all that, Gypsy Danger's setup became iconic as the first to combine plasma precision with brutal melee into an effective kaiju killer. It set the standard for future Jaegers, which either refined or specialized away from this classic formula. Gypsy's balanced gear made it adaptable, but also forced tough choices, fight from a distance or get up close and personal. That risk-reward game earned it legendary status during the war, but the next generation of Jaegers would take things further, favoring lightning-fast, specialized weapons nobody expected Gypsy to pull off. Saber Athena, for example, turned melee combat into an art form Gypsy could only dream of matching. Saber Athena. Saber Athena is the ballet dancer among giant robots with swords. While most Jaegers prefer to blow monsters up or smash them with fists the size of cars, Saber Athena chooses finesse, speed, and surgical strikes. This Mark VI Jaeger isn't about brute force. It's all precision plasma blades slicing through kaiju armor like a hot knife through surprisingly delicate jelly. Before you dismiss it as a flashy sword wielder, hear me out. Saber Athena's swords aren't just fancy cutting tools. They combine plasma energy with alloys tough enough to withstand monstrous blows. That lets them perform complex melee choreography at dizzying speeds. Imagine a deadly dance with giant monsters, where every move targets critical spots like joints, necks, or sensory organs. Officially, it sports twin or even triple plasma-edged swords that can spin, combine, or split mid-fight, controlled by advanced systems tuned for razor-sharp precision. These blades can sever limbs, pierce thick armor, or deliver strikes that dismantle kaiju piece by piece. The big edge is surgical control. While other Jaegers rely on raw power, Saber Athena nails exactly the right spot every time. But here's where it gets weird. Despite its grace and speed, Saber Athena's lack of ranged weapons is a huge tactical gamble. Kaiju battles erupt into chaotic, multi-front melees, and closing the gap safely to land sword strikes is a death sentence. This Jaeger throws itself face first into danger, right where claws, tail slams, and corrosive attacks happen, with zero missile backup. While it's the fleet-footed scalpel of the the fleet. In large brawls or swarms, it's outgunned by heavy hitters packing plasma cannons and missile launchers. This trade-off, precision over brute firepower, is what makes Saber Athena fascinating. It turns the brutal kaiju war into a deadly fencing match. Fans admire its speed and style, often comparing it to a master swordsman taking down foes thousands of tons heavier. Still, debates rage. Some say its lack of mass destruction limits its battlefield role, making it a specialist or duelist rather than a frontline tank. Others praise its unmatched agility as the perfect balance to clunky, power-hungry Jaegers that often miss heavy shots. Its finesse closes down fights, but the brutal kaiju war demands more than swords. This vulnerability sharpens the contrast with the heavily armored and armed Bracer Phoenix, where tanking damage and unleashing devastating barrages rule the day. Exactly the opposite approach from Saber Athena's lethal dance. Bracer Phoenix's weaponry is like wielding a wrecking ball strapped to a battleship, brutal, devastating, and utterly merciless. Its signature vortex cannon doesn't just punch holes in kaiju armor, it unleashes colossal shockwaves capable of reducing entire city blocks to rubble along with the beast. You'd think a weapon that can drop a Category 4 kaiju with a single blast would be the ultimate answer to kaiju destruction, but here's the kicker. Firing that cannon in or near urban areas transforms the Jaeger from hero to hazard. The Mark V E-Class Bracer Phoenix is tanky to the extreme, built like a walking fortress to absorb the blowback from its own weapons. Its squat and rugged armor design reflects its heavy assault role perfectly, prioritizing survivability when anchoring the battlefield for others to capitalize on the chaos it creates. But this comes at the cost of mobility. Bracer Phoenix moves with deliberate weight, lumbering forward while its enemies might skitter away faster. And you have to care about that vortex cannon's collateral damage because the destructive shockwaves it sends out don't discriminate. Buildings crumble, power grids fry, and civilians would be in the wrong place at the wrong time if this thing spams its firepower in a city. Commanders face the brutal strategic dilemma of choosing between wiping out a kaiju quickly or preserving vast urban infrastructure and innocent lives. It's a classic case of, do you break the city to save the city, complicated further by a weapon that's nearly impossible to dial down safely in combat. Beyond the Vortex Cannon, Bracer Phoenix packs other ranged firepower cannons and possibly missile systems to chip away at foes when precision is necessary, but none rival the sheer destructive potential of that spinning, energy-filled blast. This arsenal makes the Jaeger a frontline titan. It soaks punishment and returns it tenfold, dominating open battlefield engagements or industrial zones where collateral isn't a concern. It's the heavy hitter that forces kaiju to face annihilation or collapse under relentless barrages. However, this power doesn't come cheap. The energy demands and mechanical strain of firing the Vortex Cannon severely restrict how often it can be used. Overheating risks, maintenance cycles, and tactical considerations force tight limits on its deployment. This slow and powerful rhythm contrasts starkly with the faster, more versatile Jaegers that can pump plasma or missiles at kaiju while darting around the fight. So the ultimate power Bracer Phoenix brings is balanced with a host of moral and operational complications. It's a living paradox in urban warfare, devastating and indispensable, yet a walking weapon of mass destruction unto itself. Every shot is a gamble with tactical necessity versus strategic fallout, a juggling act between obliteration and restraint. This hard-hitting but cautious approach stands in sharp contrast to Gypsy Avenger, whose weapons pack refined precision, brutal plasma blasts, and clever environmental manipulation. Where Bracer Phoenix pounds with raw force, the other Jaeger slices and controls with surgical efficiency, representing a new generation's answer to kaiju warfare challenges. Gypsy Avenger. Gypsy Avenger is not just the heir to Gypsy Danger's legacy, it's a refined weapon system designed for precision, speed, and brutal effectiveness. This Mark VI Jaeger upgrades the classic plasma caster, chain sword, and elbow rocket with better efficiency and power, emphasizing sharp, quick strikes and rapid-fire plasma blasts. But here's the reality. It doesn't wield gravity manipulation or multi-mode splitting missiles like some fan theories suggest. Instead, it sharpens the original arsenal into a lethal package that balances ranged energy attacks with cutting melee. Before you dismiss it as just a polished Gypsy Danger, hear me out. The plasma caster on Avenger operates with a faster recharge and higher firing rate, letting pilots maintain sustained pressure on kaiju weak points, rather than relying on slow, powerful shots. The chainsword's design has improved for durability and swing speed, slicing limbs with brutal precision, while the elbow rocket packs a punch that can stagger even the toughest foes without sacrificing mobility. It's a very different style from the heavy, slow blows of Gypsy Danger, focusing instead on agility in combat. Here's where it gets interesting. While Gypsy Avenger doesn't manipulate the environment with telekinetic gravity slings, it uses advanced mobility to dodge attacks and keep up relentless pressure. This Jaeger's strength lies in its fluidity and tactical striking, moving around hazards rather than turning them against enemies. It's a precision instrument built to exploit openings rather than bombard the battlefield with debris or area effect weapons. The missile system on Gypsy Avenger is straightforward, a volley launcher that fires multiple rockets rapidly to overwhelm targets or provide covering fire. It does not feature the ability to split payloads mid-flight into smaller warheads. That capability belongs to other Jaegers. Still, this rapid missile barrage puts consistent pressure on kaiju and supports Avenger's hit-and-run combat style. This focus on speed and precision makes Gypsy Avenger extremely deadly in skilled hands. Its pilots must coordinate plasma bursts, sword strikes, and missile volleys with near-perfect timing. That's a high skill ceiling for sure. Lesser pilots will struggle to get the most out of its tools, but a top-tier team turns this Jaeger into a lightning storm of plasma and steel. Of course, this specialization means some trade-offs. Avenger's damage per shot is lower than heavier hitting Jaegers with singular devastating weapons. It's about volume and agility instead of raw knockout power, and it lacks heavier environmental weaponization, so in open arenas it relies more on tactical positioning and avoid damage play. At its core, Gypsy Avenger delivers an evolved take on Gypsy Danger's balance of ranged plasma and melee blades, but with an aggressive edge and a focus on speed. It forces pilots to think fast and strike faster, turning every fight into a dance of precise combos rather than a slugfest. But that tactical finesse pales in direct contrast to the brutal missile fury that defines Striker Eureka, a Jaeger built for overwhelming force over finesse. Striker Eureka is basically the ultimate kaiju killing machine you can imagine. Its WMB-2X9 O anti-kaiju missile launcher isn't just powerful, it can wipe out a Category 4 kaiju with a single direct hit. That's 18 K-Stunner warheads packed into a 6-barrel launcher right in its chest, ready to unleash rapid-fire devastation few Jaegers can match. The raw power per missile changes the entire battlefield. Here's the wild part. Each K-Stunner is designed to punch through reinforced carapaces and cause catastrophic internal damage with surgical precision. Most Jaeger weapons need multiple hits. Chainswords slash, plasma casters burn, vortex cannons blast, but Striker's missiles bring outright death in one shot. It's like trading a squirt gun for a portable nuclear launcher. 6 barrels with 3 missiles each means it can fire salvos that rain destruction over city blocks. Perfect for stopping kaiju before urban chaos erupts. But missiles aren't the whole story. Striker also sports high-speed sting blades on its arms, foldable razor-sharp melee weapons for brutal close-range fights once the missiles run dry. Think of them as the backup plan in case those missile hits aren't enough or the battle turns hand to hand. These blades cut deep and swift, letting Striker slice through kaiju limbs or vital spots with terrifying efficiency. Its long-range power and lethal close-up fury combine perfectly. Here's the catch. Despite this apex firepower, Striker only carries 18 warheads before needing resupply. In drawn-out fights with multiple kaiju or heavily armored threats, running out means relying on sting blades alone. That's like being a sniper with limited ammo and only a dagger for backup. Plus, firing missiles means lining up the chest launcher, which can reduce maneuverability in tight or unstable environments. So, Striker's missile god status isn't invincible or unlimited. Strategically, Striker can control fights from a distance, showering enemies with deadly ordnance before closing in if needed. That flexibility sets it apart from Jaegers, who focus solely on melee or plasma weapons. No surprise, it's seen as the crown jewel of Jaeger weapons, and often argued to be the deadliest in fan circles. Striker's reputation as the top-tier heavy hitter is nearly unchallenged. Its missile system's unique single-shot kills on Category 4, kaiju put it above even Gypsy Avenger's versatile but missile-light setup. The brutal mix of lethal firepower and missile volume lets Striker erase multiple beasts quickly if it plays smart. The Mark V status of this weapon system, just before Mark VI tech, sparks debates about whether later Jaegers truly top its raw killing power. So here's the real kicker. Striker Eureka turns battles into missile barrages, dominating with explosive power, but still bound by ammo limits and practical battlefield constraints. That mix of brutal destruction and real-world limits is what makes a killing machine truly dangerous. And Striker wears that crown better than anyone. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.